Welcome to Inside Metal Process Vocabulary. This course is built for pre-treatment professionals who have to read industrial language and turn it into practical regulatory questions. We are not trying to memorize every metal category. We are learning how to picture the process behind the word, then connect that process to water, pollutants, and the next screening step. The metal regulations use terms that sound familiar until you have to explain what they mean in a real facility. Words like swagging, atomization, pickling, burnishing, and dye penetrant testing are not just vocabulary. They describe equipment, chemistry, materials, and possible wastewater sources. If you cannot picture the operation, it is easy to miss the discharge pathway. As you move through the course, listen for the same pattern. First, what does the term mean? Second, what would it look like in the field? Third, where could water contact the part, the chemical, the dust, or the support system? That habit is what turns strange regulatory language into useful pre-treatment judgment. The CFR often assumes the reader already understands the shop floor. It may define a term in one sentence, then use that term as if everyone can immediately picture the equipment, the material being processed, and the waste streams around it. For someone new to pre-treatment, that can be a serious gap between reading the rule and understanding the facility. A process term can sound ordinary, but carry a very specific industrial meaning. Cleaning might mean removing oil with an alkaline detergent, dissolving oxide with acid, or preparing a surface for coating. Forming might mean rolling, drawing, swagging, or extrusion. Each word points to a different set of field clues and wastewater questions. The goal is not to turn you into a metallurgist. The goal is to give you enough process literacy to avoid being misled by vague facility descriptions. When an industrial user says, "We just clean parts," or "We just make components," you should know what questions to ask before accepting that description at face value. Definitions matter because pre-treatment decisions begin with operations, not limit tables. Before you can decide whether a discharge is categorically regulated, whether a sample point makes sense, or whether a permit application is complete, you have to understand what the facility is actually doing and where wastewater is generated. A technical definition gives you a translation key. It connects a word to a physical operation. Once you know the operation, you can ask what material is involved, whether water touches the part, what chemistry is present, and what pollutants may transfer into the discharge. That is why definitions are more than glossary entries. Good screening often follows a sequence: process term, operation, wastewater source, pollutant concern, and category question. If any link is skipped, the determination becomes weaker. A definition does not answer every regulatory question by itself, but it tells you where to look next. Consider a sentence like this: "We swage tubing, alkaline clean parts, dye penetrant, test finished pieces, and tumble small components." To someone outside the industry, that may sound like a jumble of unrelated shop terms. To a pre-treatment professional, it should immediately raise several different wastewater questions. Swagging points toward metal forming and possible lubricants or post-forming cleaning. Alkaline cleaning suggests high pH, oil and grease, surfactants, and rinses. Dye penetrant testing may create rinse water or cleanup waste containing dyes, solvents, or developers. Tumbling may generate compound-bearing wastewater and metal fines. The issue is not that every term automatically triggers a category. The issue is that every term gives you a clue. If you understand the clue, you can ask a better follow-up question. If you miss the clue, the facility description can sound harmless while wastewater sources remain undocumented. Whenever you encounter an unfamiliar process term, slow down and ask for questions. First, what does the term mean in plain language? Second, what would it look like in a facility? Third, where can water touch the operation, the part, the residue, or the air pollution control system? Fourth, what should the inspector ask next? This approach prevents the definition from becoming a dead sentence on a page. For example, if atomization means breaking molten metal into droplets to make powder, then the inspection questions follow naturally. Is water used? Are fines captured? Are scrubbers involved? Is there washdown? Where do solids and blowdown go? The same method works across the course. The word is only the starting point. Your real job is to translate it into physical equipment, materials, wastewater pathways, and pollutant concerns. That is how process vocabulary becomes useful in permit review, surveys, inspections, and enforcement follow-up. Most of the strange terms in the metal-related regulations fit into a few process families. Some words describe shaping or forming metal, some describe casting and cooling, others describe surface preparation, mechanical finishing, coating, and bonding, powder metallurgy, testing, or support systems. Grouping terms this way makes them easier to remember. The family matters because it gives you a starting assumption. Forming terms often point to lubricants, dyes, cooling water, and post-forming cleaning. Surface preparation terms often point to acids, caustics, oils, and rinses. Testing and support terms often hide wastewater in places the facility may not think of as production. As you move through the unit, do not treat each definition as isolated. Ask which family the word belongs to, what equipment belongs to that family, and where water usually appears. That process family thinking helps you recognize patterns across different metal facilities. You will see process vocabulary in more places than the regulations themselves. It appears in permit applications, industrial user surveys, SDSs, chemical inventories, maintenance records, production descriptions, inspection notes, and operator interviews. Often the first clue comes from a label on a tank or a sentence in a survey response. A facility may never say, "We conduct a regulated metal operation." Instead, it may list equipment like a parts washer, vibratory finisher, wet scrubber, quench tank, or powder press. Or it may list chemistry like alkaline cleaner, pickling acid, phosphate, penetrant dye, or resin. Those details are often more useful than the facility's own category label. During a review, collect the language the facility uses and translate it carefully. Do not assume a process is insignificant because the facility uses casual wording. A short phrase in a survey can point to an entire line of tanks, rinses, support systems, and wastes that need to be understood. The central message of this unit is simple: translate before you classify. Do not jump straight from a facility name to a categorical decision. Start with the operation. What is being done to the material? What material is involved? Does water contact the process? What pollutants could move into that water? This habit also protects you from both overclassifying and underclassifying. Not every metal shop is a categorical industrial user, and not every support step changes the regulatory answer. But every credible determination should be based on a clear understanding of the actual process and the wastewater pathways around it. As the course continues, each technical term will be treated as a field clue. We will define the word, describe what it looks like, connect it to wastewater, and identify practical inspection questions. That is the framework you can carry into real facility reviews.